Right. Well, I'm having to do something that's kind of like just bizarre, and I guess not something I particularly want to do. But if I don't do it, I guess no one else is going to, and that is I have to kind of keep a record of all the strange fuckery that went on at Cologne this year. Obviously, everybody knows Cologne is one of the jewels in the crown of the Counter-Strike calendar. It's got all of this prestige. It's considered to be the biggest event outside of the majors, and it's been awarded a major again coming up. So, I mean, it's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big event, right? So, yeah, but a lot of people want to go there, want to attend it. It gets a lot of eyeballs, all of that good stuff. And the first couple of days, there was just stuff going on there that was just like, what the fuck is happening? And so you're going to hear some stuff that isn't very pleasant to hear. You're going to hear some nasty words. I'll just say right from the outset, obviously, totally disavow all of this. I'm not chronicling it because it in some way reflects anything I think or like, hey, I'm getting away with one here. It's just it's been memory holes, and I think it shouldn't be. And as we'll get to, I think ESL should have made a statement about this. Certainly not just to a small journalistic outlet, but they should have put something officially out. So anyway, look, let's start with what happens now at a lot of these ESL events, a lot of the big events. HLTV have their own podcast confirmed. It's probably the biggest CS podcast right now just because of the platform and everything else. And although Talking Counter probably gives it a run for its money because of the personalities involved. But ultimately, it is now somehow been folded in as to part of the experience, particularly when you attend an ESL event. It's not for me to speculate as to why that's kind of become the norm or all of the other stuff with it, because ultimately, HLTV, there's overlapping sponsors with ESL and HLTV. We just have to essentially trust that HLTV are, of course, going to be impartial, particularly now as they're the curator of the VRS rankings. And so anyway, when you go to an ESL event, it's now more likely than not there'll be a live episode of Confirmed taped with a live crowd. This is a very popular new thing that's kind of been happening with new media, which is, live podcasts. People get in the studio and they want to record, the live experience. And so anyway, there was one of those this time around. And what was also happening at Cologne was if you had a certain tier of ticket, you got free beer, right? Now, been doing this a long time, been going to esports events a long, long time. Love a drink myself, quite famously. But unlimited beer is not a great idea for esports fans. I can't help but observe, having seen, I mean, even when we did Copenhagen, I saw one of the shittest drunken fights of all time, where it was like someone just shouted at someone else, "You're fat, you an Astralis fan." It was really lame. You can go watch the PGL video about that PGL Copenhagen video if you care. But anyway, just take my word for it that these things generally, they spiral out of control quite quickly. Esports fans, they just can ruin anything. They can fuck up a wet dream. You know what I mean? They're just fucking useless. So obviously, the free beer is being dispensed. And everyone's having, supposedly a good time. Everyone's excited to meet their personalities in person while they're recording the HLTV podcast. And then Alex Machine was talking about his clothing range that he's been working on and helped design. And he was like doing a twirl and like modeling some of the clothes. And he's very passionate about this. And I think he's got a real flair for design. We've talked about this, like, obviously, when we're on the road together. And then somebody said this.
So on the back, it has this cool. I was Googling. Say it again. Oh, okay. Racism. It is a HLTV podcast after all. Okay.
Now, just in case you didn't hear that, what that individual in the crowd said to Alex was, he asked him, "Did you pick the cotton yourself?" That is the joke, obviously making a reference to the American slave trade, which doesn't even fucking work as an edgy joke, honestly. But it really shocked me when I got shown this clip. I got showed it the day after. And I was like, for that individual to say that to Alex, he has to be aware that Alex is dual heritage, right? So that is a genuine act of racism. That's not like an edgy joke between friends that have known each other for decades where certain things may be permissible. That is a member of the public meeting somebody that is there to entertain them and simply saying a racist thing to them, which the implication being because of Alex's dual heritage history, he should be he should have a slave history, or he should be working in a field. It's fucking beyond a joke. Now, you can probably see as well, you watch the clip back, you can see people's reactions to it in the crowd are very
Say it again.
uncomfortable. Rightly so,
I-
not
oh,
everybody.
okay.
Like, look, I mean, head in the
Racism!
hands,
Racism! It is a HLTV
right?
podcast after all.
And people nervously shuffling around. I mean, I guess that's the good news. Like, people did recognize it as a really vile and reprehensible thing to say. And the guy has obviously traveled there. He's got a strong Irish accent. So he's flown out to go and see these people, and then just thinks it's tonally appropriate to make that kind of joke. Now, I'm genuinely shocked he wasn't thrown out. I mean, I'm not talking of just a podcast tape, and I'm talking about of Cologne in general. You know, Alex is there to work the event. And just so people know, when we do the things like go on HLTV confirmed and what have you, we're not getting paid for that. That's like something we just do in our spare time because we want to engage with the fans. So I mean, Alex is there of his own volition, giving up his own time to try and entertain someone and engage with people, and somebody treats him like that. I mean, I messaged Alex about this, and I'm 100% adamant. If I'd have been there, I'd have pulled that motherfucker's card. Like, I mean, you don't get to sit there and enjoy the rest of the show after you do something like that. You'd be thrown out of a concert, you'd be thrown out of a comedy club, you'd be thrown out of a nightclub, you'd be thrown out of any social setting I can think of if you made a racist joke to a total fucking stranger. And particularly one that everybody heard in the room. And yet he wasn't asked to leave. Nobody threw him out. Nobody tried to identify him, get his ticket revoked or anything like that. Just sat there for the rest of the event. Alex, of course, again, I don't want to speak on his behalf. I would never presume to. But I mean, I know from knowing Alex a long, long time. Me and Alex go way back. We go back to very early UK esports. I know he's been, bullied and had negative experience predicated on his ethnicity. And I mean, it's like, he got called some really derisory things when he went to school. And it's like, he's obviously had a lifetime of building up a shell to that kind of stuff. And so, you can see it didn't phase him. He just said, yeah, racism. It wouldn't be an HLTV podcast without racism, a joke in itself about the forums, they used to be notoriously racist. Now that you have to use your Steam ID, I can't help but notice all the fucking cowards that don't want to get identified. They don't post as much. Weird that. But anyway, I feel like I've honestly, I don't want to make it too melodramatic. I just think we failed Alex there. Like, that's how I feel about it. That podcast should have stopped and that person should have been told to leave. I just feel that's the bare minimum we should have done in that instance. Obviously, when you're doing a live show and shit happens, yeah, it can, fucking come out of left field and you don't always do what's appropriate and you don't always catch it. But I genuinely think, again, if I'm on that panel with Alex, I'm just saying to the mic, like, you need to fucking go, or I'm going to give you 5 minutes. I'll make you go. It's like there's just got to be a fucking baseline of decorum, and that is it's just so over the line. It's hard for me to reconcile that nobody could identify just how far over the line it was. I just think it's a really shitty thing to do. I mean, by the way, it's bad enough when people are really hostile to those people giving up their free time to just try and entertain you and add a bit of an experience to the event, give you extra value for your money as a fan. Alex is one of the best. I've never seen him say no to a signature or any of that stuff. I mean, it's just a real shitty thing to do to like a genuinely good guy. And yeah, it makes me actually sad to think that could happen at a CS event because I didn't think there was any of that shit there. So that guy, by the way, I don't know who the fuck he is. I hope it's a given. He just needs to keep his head down because he's absolutely not welcome at any CS events forever for me. So, fucking, I just think that's despicable. Then we also had a sort of the next day came around, and so, all right, it's a time for fresh starts, right? So let's do something really cool and positive. Now, ESL decided they wanted to do a trophy walkout where the existing trophy holder brings out the trophy, and obviously, Vitality are the dominant team right now, or they were until the end of the event. They were on an epic streak, right? It was all going really, really well. And then ultimately, they wanted to create this moment of hype. Now, this is classic ESL trying too hard for me. I think like there's absolutely no need to have two trophy walkouts at one tournament because they did it again before the final with Forest. Usually, what the tradition, still a relatively recent thing, but it's something that we've done more and more of lately. What the tradition is now is you bring an old veteran back, usually one that's geographically relevant or popular or has just recently retired. You have them bring out the trophy, and everyone gets to give them their flowers and say thanks for all of the memories. And that's a nice moment. Having a existing current player in the best team bring the trophy out for everybody to see. This is classic ESL. They always go too far with trying to synthesize epic moments. It's become a real hallmark of their broadcasts in recent years that they just try too hard. But whatever. Anyway, I'll forgive them for that. It's better to try too hard than not try at all, like some fucking tos. So fair enough. But anyway, that's just an observation. Nothing to do with the clip. The clip, I mean, like, I was obviously watching Cologne. I was watching from home. I'm a fan. I watch all the big tournaments because, of course, I do. I'll always be a fan of Counter-Strike. I mean, I love the game. I love the competition. I don't like other aspects of the business so much, but say la vie. So anyway, this happened during the walkout. And on live stream fails, it's labeled not suitable for work. So I'm just going to play it. Now, no, your ears did not deceive you, assuming I don't know how we're going to edit this for YouTube, but we'll see. You will notice this isn't being streamed live on Twitch because you can't even talk about these things without you suffering the consequences and being impugned as if you're the bad person. I didn't fucking shout it. I'm not the one memory holing it and not apologizing for it, but obviously if I live stream this, I'd be the bad guy. So anyway, yep, that is just somebody shouting the N-word, which went out over the broadcast during this epic moment. Now, also, I need you to understand a few things about how it works, because we put these mics into the crowd, so we pick up the ambient noise of the crowd, so when people cheer, it's all there. So obviously that was very loud. The music was blaring, fans are cheering. It gets right to the end, just as he's about to put the trophy down, and then somebody, whoever did that, has gone full send. I mean, they have screened it. They have screened it in public in Germany in 2025. And I was like, it was so crazy to hear it. The reactions in the thread on live stream fail, as you can see. Shit was so unbelievably loud. I had to double check to see if I was tweaking or not. And they go into a debate about ways that you can change things and make sure things like that don't happen and don't go out on the broadcast. Anyway, that's largely irrelevant to the topic of conversation. People wanted to believe that it was a German colloquial term called digger with a D, D-I-G-G-A. There's a lot of back and forth about the etymology of this. Many people have said erroneously that it is in itself a self-insert for the N-word, but it isn't. It comes from, I believe, an old German term of endearment, which was dicker, which meant like, a chubby little fat kid, like that, right? And so obviously through the years it got, put into this little colloquial thing where Germans say digger. You probably heard some German people say it. Obviously, Own a Pixel, when he calls people driller, that's a play on words of that. And I'm very big on these things where I don't like American cultural standards just being imparted on the rest of the world, and we're all told we've got to eat shit. Fuck your tradition, fuck your history, fuck your language. The Americans are here, bow down, you know. And you've seen these clips, like, you know, when Americans discover there's a country called Montenegro or whatever. You know, it's like you've seen the YouTube videos. It's like, guys, for fuck's sake. You know, I think every 4 years we do the scandal about, like, they realize what the word black means, how it's said in Spanish, and it's on the side of a Crayola box, and everyone, you know, we just do the same thing over and over again. I think it's stupid too. Now, that isn't what happened here, but people didn't want to believe someone would just full send, scream the N-word, you know, at a live Counter-Strike event. But of course, I mean, that is what happened, as we'll get to. But people were posting, it's Digger, it's Digger, it's definitely Digger. You can see here, like, someone said it was the word digger, and then it comes down, somebody puts it there, it's digger. And then there was this one, sounds like digger to me, quite a common word in Germany. Oh no, the Americans are here to tell us we can't say our own words again. Just wait until there's a tournament in Korea. Because yes, there is a word in Korean that quite famously sounds almost phonetically identical to the N-word. So people were just kind of a bit reticent to accept what had happened. And I'm sad that in my job covering Counter-Strike, I'm required to do a forensic breakdown of whether somebody shouted the N-word at the top of their voice or not at an event. But if you just play it at half speed, you can quite clearly hear the N right at the start of it, which is what I did. And I put it out there because by this point, by the point people were talking about it, this had been, all the clips were getting deleted. All of the threads that were linking to it got removed from the CSGO subreddit. Turns out, ESL, you're not doing a great job at AstroTurfing live stream fail, are you? Pretty obviously AstroTurfing the CS subreddit, though, at this point. I think we can all see it. So, anyway, I did a screen recording, because by this point the clips had been deleted, and so I did a screen recording of the clip I've just played you, played it at half speed, and you'll just hear it very clearly. There's no dispute it wasn't Digger at all. Now, it's also worth noting, nobody in the crowd heard that. Apex didn't hear that. You heard it at home. The people in the production room heard it. But the people, it didn't go out live to the event. Those mics are there solely for the people at home to get the ambiance of everything that's going on. And we'll show you the mic placement, which is part of the problem. But again, that is somebody in a crowd of people doing that at the top of their lungs. Just wild shit, wild behavior. Oh, and I also have to tell you, this fucked ESL so unbelievably hard. He couldn't have timed it worse. Because of the nature of how it is, it's like almost impossible to cut around. That trophy walk that they probably rehearsed, right? Probably brought Apex in, did a couple of rehearsals maybe. That's gone from the VOD now. That's deleted. That never happened. It just didn't happen, right? So it's gone. It's gone. Bye. Or another epic moment stripped out. They fucking spent ages setting that up for that. And you got to say, it's unquestionably ESL's fault. Why do I say that? Well, let me show you. I've got where the microphones actually were. Here's a picture of one of them. That's the crowd mic. And I'm told they were like every 20, 30 meters or so. That's how easy it is to just walk up to them and scream into one. Anything you want. And it's going out on an official broadcast. Now, I've got my own theories about this. But let's first show you what they did after the fact. So you'll see here on a thread called "They changed the mic placement," that actually they started to hang them from the ceilings. Still doesn't look like a particularly sophisticated setup. It looks like it's just hanging by a wire from the rafters. And I've got my own opinions about this, my own speculation as to what happened, because obviously you wouldn't want to set up the mics too close to the fans for the reasons we're about to see. But I reckon in Germany, bureaucracy central, probably to get people up there on a ladder and to hang stuff from the ceiling, you probably have to pay a health and safety specialist. You probably have to get it signed off, and it probably has to be a fully accredited ladder technician or some bullshit title like that. And it probably costs money and it probably takes time. And I reckon ESL were they're probably stretched for both in a live event setting. And I've had stuff like this on events I've worked on where it's like, you need to hire a specialist or a union worker to do this thing, and then, you know, it's so much extra money. But if you don't do it their way, then it's not going to be allowed. So you've got to make the decision. So it's probably something like that, if I was wagering. So it's definitely on ESL. And by the way, that's indisputable because they fixed it. But why did it take not one, not two, but 3 instances of not just the N-word, but also Heil Hitler going out live on an esports broadcast for them to make this a priority? You're going to say there's no way, Richard. Oh, yeah, way. Big time way. So, as always, I'm the guy that has to chronicle it. So Harry and Hugo were doing a cast, and somebody went up to one of those microphones, took out their phone, started playing a song by Kanye. Yeah, as he's called now. And let's just say it wasn't one of the classics.
11-4 performance on Europa.
This is probably the best start for Makazi, getting up to car without taking damage, and Mongols have given it up, making a gamble. 4 strong versus just the one, captain of Blitz with nades at the ready. If Na'Vi just go on this early timing with a flash, it might catch him off guard. Blitz has got to drop that Molotov. Does he believe?
Now, I was terrified because I was like, has someone set that as someone's ringtone as a prank and it's gone off during the cast? But no, you'd be pleased to know Harry and Hugo not aligned with any of that nonsense. And it was the crowd again going up. I messaged them. I said, guys, you got to talk to production about this. This is fucking really bad. This is super bad. Now, also, why is that particularly edgy in Germany? Well, you're going to say, Richard, there's one obvious reason, okay? But they actually banned the Ye song, and or they actually banned it in Germany, and so it became like this little like super edgy thing. But I looked into the German laws that they have, and while they do have exemptions for like satirical use, it's a misconception that you can't say anything about the Third Reich, and you can't say Hitler's name and whatever it might be. There is a misconception. You can't display a swastika. There's a misconception that isn't true. In fact, there's been multiple advertisements that have satirically used this historically down here and argued there's a satirical exemption. We've recently had protests about Elon Musk, right? In Germany and Austria, and particularly because of his vocal support of a German far-right party, which is gaining in popularity at the moment. And that they have certainly displayed him as Hitler, and they've certainly referred to him as Hitler, and they have certainly showed him with swastikas and things like this. So it's not as simple as saying, oh, it violates whatever it is. It's Section 130A of the German Criminal Code, which prevents any sort of glorification of hate groups, any praise of Nazis, Nazism, or I think, or any encouragement to commit and incite a crime or that relates to those things. It's something like that. Anyway, whatever. That's not the. I'm not a German solicitor. The point being that could have absolutely been interpreted as a glorification of the Third Reich, and by virtue of playing it on a live broadcast in a live setting with people around you, that person could have been held liable. Who knows? Maybe somebody might have called the police. Nobody did. Nobody did. So far, as far as we know, there have been no attempts to identify any of the people that did this. And so after that happened, I'm like, fucking hell, man. They gotta realize now, and maybe you just have to turn the crowd mics off today. Now, just on that point, I'll also say this. If they did turn off the crowd mics, which would have fixed the problem, all of Reddit would have cried about it. You know, rocking a hard place, I guess. So this is what you ended up with. And I say it did happen again. And once again, the clip got memory hold. So what we have to rely on is, unfortunately for him, Maui Snake's co-stream. Maui Snake was co-streaming the event. By the way, this happened to all of the co-streamers as well. So think about this, right? It's a rule on Twitch that if it's your stream, your responsibility, essentially. And multiple people have been banned down the years for like somebody like stream sniping them and shouting something racist or harassing them in a game and playing like, you know, Hitler speeches or whatever it might be. People have had their Twitch streams banned over this stuff. So ESL has made everybody liable for this. Twitch have took no action because, of course, one hand washes the other, right? They probably had a word and just will make it go away and we won't talk about it publicly, and don't worry. Because also, I mean, Twitch should have absolutely, by the second time, should have banned the stream by their own TOS. That, of course, we know they selectively enforce. But anyway, this was Maui Snake's turn. And once again, this time, not playing the song, singing, I'll use the term loosely, the song.
First.
Each set of overtime, both teams are going to be able to get themselves.
What the fuck? Dude, are you kidding me? What
take their time.
the hell was that?
It's a rainy day.
3 times ESL. And it was like a bit of a recurring joke because you're like, reset the clock. Let's see, can we get through another day without someone shouting something racist on your official stream? That one, by the way. In fact, actually, let's just play that again. Right, that one.
Each set of overtime, both teams are going to be able to get themselves.
What the fuck? Dude, are you kidding me?
What? I want you to see if you notice something about this. It happened during an Intel replay.
Set of overtime, both teams are going to be able to get.
So that is your branded segment. That's Intel's name, logo on that. Have Intel got anything to say about it? We're just not going to talk about it. ESL privilege, guys. Crazy stuff. And it doesn't end there. I'm even sadder to say. Because, sure, you had one day of just absolute madness in Cologne, but we fixed it, right? And then we moved the mics and everyone grew up and stopped doing it. Well, no. There was also another incident that happened, which I just couldn't believe. This is like, I haven't seen anything like this before. Pimp, like, I don't know why Pimp's a controversial guy, really. I've never got it. Like, Pimp the streamer said and done some spicy stuff. Pimp the analyst is just a dude, like, you know, just, I don't even think he gives, like, spicy opinions. I think his opinions are some of the most vanilla on the desk. Like, I think he's just a guy that, like, because he's an ex-pro, he just sees things a particular way. And I've never seen such a disproportionate amount of... In fact, actually, what's crazy is, I think about all the shit Maui Snake gets, and I think about all the shit Pimp gets, and it's like... it's just so unwarranted for different reasons, you know? And it's like, it's just crazy. It's actually crazy. So, this is Pimp. Someone's took a picture of him, probably from when he was preparing, one of his photos from when he was preparing for an IEM contest. By the way, Jacob is doing all these, like, ultra marathons now and stuff, really pushing his fitness journey as far as he can. And you don't have to think it's inspirational, but for a lot of people it will be. He was a very, very big kid. You know, he used to be really, really fat, lost a lot of weight. I don't think he talks about... Everyone always says, oh, but he lost weight. Like, that's just because of that one documentary that blasted or something. Well, anyway, somebody distributed flyers, and you can see it's cross-eyed, spicy F word on the run. And obviously, we've censored that out. And they've got a photo of him doing the tuck before his ultramarathon, because you've got to make sure everything's tight down there or you're going to get chafed. Now, I just don't... Right, you go, okay, but Richard, that's just one flyer, right? Well, no, there was dozens of these. Somebody was actually handing these out at the event. And, I mean, this is obviously Jacob or someone trying to pick them up and put them in the bin. They were just spread everywhere. And look, you can see, like, having to explain how come some people would print and write something like this to my girlfriend and father-in-law was not nice. I mean, look, the people who have families take their families to these events as well. So, you know, family members are in the crowd, wives are in the crowd, sometimes kids are in the crowd, and people come across stuff like this. I invited them to experience what I consider to be the #1 CS event all year, invited them to see what I do for a living and experience the greatest atmosphere Counter-Strike has to offer. I'm sad this also had to be part of the story. I find it hard to explain because what exactly is the reasoning to make something like this that makes sense? I do my job. I do it with all I got. I bust my ass off every event to do it justice. I spend 200 days away from home every single year, devouring my entire professional life to this wonderful game. You may not agree with everything I say I do, but that's totally fair. But let's keep it civil, shall we? My job is a big part of my life, but it ain't all of my life. This crossed a line for me, and I hope that's the last time I have to explain to someone in my life what ugly sides also tag along with my career. As a great friend said to me, when did feeling shame become unpopular? Cologne was once again absolutely fantastic in every other respect. City was full of life, the atmosphere in the arena remarkable. Beyond excited to return next year for the IEM Cologne 2026 major. And it's like, it's just mental. Like, I don't know when we reached a point, by the way, where the fans held all of us in just such utter contempt. Like, you might not like our opinion. You might think our Twitter makes fools of everyone. It's not a great format for big ideas and explaining yourself. But, like, the stuff that happened to Alex and the stuff that happened to Jacob this time, that is actual contempt. And that's so bizarre to me because we want you to have a good time. We want you to enjoy the show. Everything we do is in service of that goal. Every time we're out there, you know, making a spicy take is to get you talking. It's not just for us. The shitty fucking backlash that comes with it isn't a lot of fun. It's for the game, for the love of the game, for the love of Counter-Strike, to create entertaining discussion and engaging content. That's what it's for. But ultimately, I don't know, I feel like I see it on Twitter quite a bit. I think there's been a real change. There's don't want to say malevolence. That might be selling it a little bit too strongly, but like I say, just a real, like some of the talent. It's like there's people out there that just genuinely despise them and think doing things like this is like fair game. It just isn't. And look, the worst part in all of this is ultimately all of these things happened at an ESL event. No one has taken any responsibility for any of this, certainly not publicly. If you look at on the definitely not astroturfed, manipulated subreddit, there was a thread linking to a play.gg article. But I want you to just, first of all, look at the reaction before I read you the statement. This is downvoted to 38%. Right? I think this is important. I think ESL should have to say something about all of this, not just on behalf of their own business, on behalf of the talent that was affected by it, on behalf of the fans that were affected by it, on behalf of the sponsors that had their brand adjacent to racism and glorification of Adolf Hitler. I think probably you should come out with a statement and explain how it happened and if it's going to happen again. What are you doing to make sure it doesn't? But you can see here, complete non-issue. Imagine caring. What was the incident about? People still aren't even aware this happened. I made a joke on Twitter about it, and somebody was like, what happened? I'm like, yep, well, the subreddit did their job again. Break silence. They didn't say anything about how this even happened. And it says there's no new information in the article. Not true. Play did their job as a journalistic outlet by reaching out to ESL, and it says here, ESL Facebook group has responded with a written statement provided to play.gg via email. Again, they haven't put this out publicly, and they won't, because that would mean they'd have to acknowledge their fuck up. And ESL don't do that because they're perfect. It's everyone else that's bad. In our arenas and on our stages, ESL Face It Group has no tolerance for hate speech or toxicity of any kind. We are outraged by the language by one of the spectators that could be heard during our IEM Cologne broadcast. It's our top priority to ensure our communities, both online and in person, are a safe and welcoming space for all. And that's interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, they use that fucking hashtag GG for all statement, right? To, like, you know, farm engagement over ESL Impact, try and distract you from the fact that they're a Saudi-owned company, and indeed, not everyone in Saudi gets a GG. It's just wild to me that they're, like, going to just try and, well, they've done it. They've succeeded. They've been allowed to succeed once again. Kill this story with silence. None of these incidents happened. I don't know kind of what it says about the CS community. I've never bought the narrative that we're like more toxic, more racist, more hateful, more unwelcoming than any other group. But I will say, so many incidents in such a small time is making me revise that opinion. I do this from time to time. You might want to try it. You know, if I believe something and I think I've totally got my finger on the pulse of an issue, but then I am exposed to things that make me think maybe I don't, I go away and I revise that opinion and maybe I update it. And I'm just like really shocked that this could happen at one of the biggest CS events. And then, of course, the cherry on the cake, we announce, hey, it's a major, guys. We'll be back. See you next year. Well, I mean, there's a bunch of fucking lousy fans that fucking really spoiled this event for a number of people, including people that work the event. So that's something to definitely ponder and think about. Now, I'll say you should never fall into the trap of taking the extreme fringe and making that the norm in your mind. And that's probably the most charitable thing I can say in all of these instances. That probably they represent a tiny, tiny percentage of the worst fans that we just happen to have in the scene. And, you know, probably everyone else is normal, well-adjusted, and understands why these things are bad. But unfortunately, through the decision-making process of ESL, the bad actors were ultimately empowered. And things like, I mean, even down to the flyers being handed out, how does no one spot that? There's just a total lack of attention to detail with ESL right now, and a lack of forethought. This was all totally avoidable, and it's staggering to me that rather than fix it and make a pledge it's not going to happen again, and, you know, apologize to some people, instead we're just going to delete the clip's memory hole. It never happened, and we just move on, I guess. So, yeah, I'm not going to let that one slide, unfortunately. I think it's actually important to take stock, because if next time we're in Cologne, or indeed the next event, something similar happens, I think it's important to reflect occasionally on how we are as a collective and, you know, how these things can affect other people. So no doubt this will be one of these videos where I get called a whiny SJW. That's the pendulum swings from video to video on what my politics are, apparently. So we'll wait and see. But I just feel genuinely saddened by some of that, and particularly what happened to Alex and what happened to Jacob. I think that's just a different level. It's beyond the pale. Totally unacceptable. And to do it to the people that want to give you a service, care about the game as much as anybody, because they've dedicated their adult lives to it. I think to treat people like that is just reprehensible. So, you know, just another day in esports, I guess.